Welcome back to Gopher's Workshop. I'm your host, Aaron, and joining me, as always, is my fellow host, Chris.
I'm here.
And Sky.
We're on a mission.
I just love how Chris's response is, yep, I'm here.
We've got a long road of recording today, and most of it is going to trigger my depression. But it's okay.
Oh, God.
We're gonna do the good stuff first.
Let's do the good stuff first.
Yep.
All right, so today we're going to be doing an episode. This episode is all about the chapter approved mission decks. So, Chris, take me home. What's our initial thoughts on this?
As our initial thought is always shit on Reddit. Reddit panicked for no reason, so no surprise. A lot of the spoilers, I guess we'll call them, that we got early, put people in a panic. And to be fair, some of it makes sense if we made giant assumptions that we knew exactly what was going to happen. It turns out we didn't. So this new deck has 3 different categories of missions in it. So Incursion is now in this, which is nice. They made very minor adjustments, but also the fact that they acknowledge that it's half the models is nice. Glad we got it. We also got asymmetric missions, which is part of what everyone was freaking out about, because they're like arguably, I don't want to say imbalanced, but they're intentionally imbalanced missions. But also they're not for competitive play. Like the very first thing the little booklet does is tell you there are 3 separate decks or sets of missions, mission parameters they call them. Incursion, Strike Force, which is what we're used to, and then asymmetric. They're entirely different. And if you look at the cards when you get the deck eventually, if GW ever prints enough, you'll even see they have like different markings on the bottom, so you cannot confuse them.
That's nice.
They're clearly for like a pseudo narrative thing.
You're right. And if you want to have like a weird time of like, I'm getting bored of the mission pack and I want to do something dumb and weird, it's great. There's nothing wrong with asymmetric missions, but the whole internet lost its mind when they revealed, like, look at this silly deployment zone. And okay, but that's not what we're doing for tournaments. So get over it. We're fine.
I was really excited for it. I'm not gonna lie.
Exist, right? You can totally play them. If you want to have a good time, you can. But also, if you want to go to a tournament and have a balanced like mission pack, it still exists. We're doing okay. The other thing is, towards the end of the spoilers, we also found out about twists, and some of the twists are also wild and kind of not super balanced, we'll say. But again, they're fun, right?
Yeah, they basically replace mission rules, but are not in the competitive play stuff. So it's like mission rules got crazier and then moved out of the Strike Force stuff.
Correct. So again, people are freaking out about like, oh, these twists, if they implement those into mission packs, it like, obviously they can't use this one, but they might use others. And like, this is going to be nuts. No, it turns out this whole little booklet, it is twice exactly that twists are mentioned. And neither time does it even mention how to play them. One time it tells you how many cards twists are, and the other time says if you use twists, don't use this other rule. Like, it doesn't even tell you to use the twists. It doesn't tell you how to use them. There's extra cards you got, I guess. So again, freaked out about nothing. It's fine. So moving on to things that actually matter. For the Strike Force, deployments are all the same. Identical. Sounds great. They implemented challenger cards, and this is probably the biggest real change that we got. So challenger cards do a couple of things. First off, they only exist if at the beginning of the battle round, a player is behind by 6 or more points. They become the challenger. They get to draw a single challenger card at random, and then they get either not secondary mission, a extra mission parameter to score 3 victory points, or a free stratagem that they can only use once. And I say or is because if you use the stratagem, it tells you to immediately discard the card, not only making it a one use only, but also because you've discarded the card, you cannot score the points later on in the turn. In order to score the points later on the turn, not only do you have to do a thing, most of which are admittedly very easy, but also you, like, in order to score them, you don't get the stratagem. So it's one or the other. This is pretty reasonable, if I'm being honest. I don't know that it's like super great, but also it seems pretty reasonable. And here's why I say that. Craziest scenario, a player is behind by exactly 6 points. They pull this challenger card that says basically almost free 3 victory points. So they're only behind by 3. They're still behind. And then if they in fact rocket ahead, that means they're in effect giving their opponent the challenger next battle round. So they're also handing their opponent 3 points. If they don't rocket ahead, then these 3 points make it closer, because what in the likely scenario, they're not down by exactly 6. They're down by like 9 or 12 or something. So then they get 3 points, making it closer. And now we're okay. There's 9 cards at random because both players are pulling from the same deck, and maximum, assuming you get behind early, the earliest you would pull is turn 2, which means you're only going to pull 4 cards out of the 9. So it's not even reliable that, like, I'm going to plan around, I'm going to get behind early in submarine, and then I'm going to pull this card and it's going to let me totally swing the game in my favor. It doesn't really work that way.
But some of the stratagems on those cards are also pretty crazy too, if I remember right.
The stratagems, I wouldn't say are crazy. I think they're pretty decent. The fact that they're free, they do have a special rule in that it said that they cannot be modified, so they will always be free.
Okay, that's nice.
I think that's actually terrible, if I'm being honest.
Really?
So, yeah, okay, because I think, and the way it's worded, this almost sounds like they were worried about people were going to argue. My captain says, reduce the cost by 1. Well, now it's -1, so I get a free CP in addition to the strat. Like, first off.
Yeah.
It's the way they worded it, that's the way it made it sound like that's what they're trying to prevent. But what really happened, because the kind of shitty rules lawyer people that are trying to, like, I don't want to say cheat to win, but are trying to, like, get unfair advantages. What is the reality of what they did? The few rules in the game where they say, oh, if they target a unit within 12 of this guy, I'm going to increase the AP cost or the CP cost by 1. First off, those rules are kind of bad, because they're like, it's not that they are bad, it's that they're mostly irrelevant. And now you implemented a rule to make them even more irrelevant. Ow. I don't know why we're like shitting on those 3 characters in the whole game, but I'm glad we shit on them.
Bye-bye.
So
that's modified CP.
Yeah. Whatever. The answer is it's free. That's fair.
So
good.
I guess the big question is, so Reddit's wrong. We know that. The big question here is, I guess, how is this going to change the game of competitive style?
I think a lot of games are going to end up closer. I've seen some people already arguing on the internet about how this is going to be really swingy, because I heard one guy who said, like, no, but if you go second, you're always going to gain, like, the advantage on the challenger deck and blah, blah, blah. Like, first off, I don't think that's how the math works out at all. But in general, I think this just becomes closer. Early, turn 2, turn 3, if you pull a lucky card and it helps you swing the game, maybe you get a substantial lead. But the more substantial lead that like the early card makes, the more total cards you've given to your opponent. It's really not that bad. The fact that I think what I think is kind of funny is the fact that you pull each battle round, right? So like even on turn 4 and 5, when it's like, I've basically lost the game. Well, here's like free 6 points. Keep playing. Don't just give up. We talked to the other week about people conceding.
Yep.
I would argue this is very solid in like, no, but you're like 15 points behind. And yeah, it feels like you're going to lose hard. But also when you say 15 minus 6, what if you're only 9 points behind? That sounds more reasonable. You could do it. Give it a try. Like, I think this in general is a pretty solid choice. I am kind of happy with how it's turning out. To clarify a few more things about it, the way it works is, so in theory, if you pulled all 4 cards because you were absolutely behind the whole time, you could get up to 12 free points. You're not going to because of the way it works, but let's just say it does. Well, your primary is still capped at the normal 50. Your secondary is still capped at the normal 40. But the way this is working is because you have these 12 extra points, they're neither primary or secondary, but you still have the total cap of 90 points amongst all 3 primary, secondary, and challenger. So if I'm having a bad game, I can't seem to stand on circles. I'm doing my actions. I'm like earning my secondaries, but I can't stand on circles. Well, what if this counted as you stood on circles, 1 or 2 more times than normal? Okay, well, again, the game's getting closer. The opposite could be true. I'm doing primary. I'm standing on circles, but I'm too busy standing on circles, killing stuff. I can't seem to do actions anywhere. I didn't have the battle line, and they had a ton of battle line. Well, now you have this like more evenness of like, okay, but you're doing well at the mission. Here's to make up for the fact that your opponent, was able to prevent you from doing all your secondaries or something. Or maybe you pulled bad on secondaries, like the order of operations sort of thing. This makes it a little more even. Again, all reasonable stuff as far as I'm concerned. Yes, this is weird. This is new. It's going to take a little while to get used to, but I really think overall, I'm happy with where Challenger is at.
Okay.
We'll see how it shakes out too. I mean, I feel like as someone who either wins a game or is tabled by turn 3, getting 3 extra victory points on turn 2 is kind of whatever. But we'll see.
You're right. But when you say you're basically tabled on turn 3, what if that like 2 units of Grots, that's all you got left on turn 4? What if you could almost guarantee that they earn you 3 points? I'm not saying that they will, because again, you have to pull like the right cards or whatever, right? But like the reality is, no, there's one that just says you get 3 victory points if 2 different units shot at the same unit and like did even a single wound. That's extremely easy. But also, you know what 2 Grot units could do? Combined, a single wound.
Oh man. All right, I'm going to roll 1,000,000 dice. Let's hope maybe one gets in there.
Correct. The fact that 2 different units shot and like all you had to do is amongst all of those dice, get a single wound through. Again, the 2 Grot units could totally earn you 3 victory points.
I definitely like where they're trying to go. And I think it's way more playable than the secret missions stuff, which I thought was a cool idea too. It was too hard to not telegraph what the secret was.
Yeah, and then even then it had this like drawback of like I had to decide on turn 3 if I was going to go for secret, and if I did, it now like capped my primary at 40 instead of 50, and like
now I'm all in on this risky thing while they're scoring regularly. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a bit of a drawback because even if you scored it, that might have upped your total points, but the reality is you capped yourself, so at a lower cap than your opponent, you're already at a handicap by choosing to do this thing. Now with Challenger, it's a little more back and forth. That's solid.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on. We got primary missions. As far as primary missions, there's 10 options, which is basically the same as before, if I remember correctly. But there are 4 that have effectively changed. Most of them are the same, okay? We are making arguably minor changes, which is a good thing because we are trying to get closer and closer to this balance, right? And if something isn't broke, don't fix it. So most of the missions stayed the same. I'm pretty happy about that. Of the 4 that changed, we're going to start with terraform. We are way more interactive now. Before, going first, you could attempt to terraform all 3, and then like at that point, even if your opponent could get to the circle, they couldn't even attempt to start terraforming, right? Well, terraforming, for starters, only scores you 1 instead of 2 victory points, which sounds worse. However, hear me out. When you terraform, it now scores the end of your turn instead of your opponent's turn. Okay, so now it's actually easy to terraform, but your opponent can attempt to terraform those objectives. If they terraform those objectives, they flip it. So you terraformed it. It's your objective. You terraformed it. But now I'm going to run over to the one you terraformed and do the terraform action. And then after it completes at the end of my turn, it's no longer terraform for you and it is terraform for me. So now we have this back and forth, much like the challenger cards, right? Of like, no, we're actively both struggling over the same thing. Way more interactive.
So it's about having a unit to do this every turn, back and forth.
Yeah. And this is a bit of this is going to feel like a bit of a wash. All right. The first few times you play this, it's going to feel a little dumb because he's going to do an action, then I'm going to do an action, then he's going to do an action, then I'm going to do an action. And none of us have scored any terraform points because I keep flipping it back and forth. It never sees our command phase that we own it. We've scored no terraform. So it's going to feel dumb at first. But then after you get used to it, it's not going to be, I'm not scoring. It's going to be, but I've prevented my opponent from scoring. So now they have to answer with another action unit. And you'll find this like nice churn and trade. It'll be better. I think this is actually a way better version of Terraform.
So are you saying that we're going to see lower scoring games on this particular mission as we get used to it?
I don't think so. And here's why I say that. You could see lower scoring games. Totally fair. I understand the argument to that. However, the more you're doing actions, the more you're giving up shooting, which means the more you're exposing units, the less total damage output you're putting out, which means the more models your opponent has. There's a whole like cascade of effects here. This actively encourages you to do actions way more often. When I played Terraform before, if I went first, I tried to do a ton of like Terraform actions, right?
Yep.
Prevent my opponent. If I went second, I knew what my opponent was doing. I wouldn't even try to do the terraform actions. I would just prevent the terraforms from going through by sticking a bunch of OC or killing dudes or whatever. And then after that, I probably wouldn't even attempt to terraform till like turn 3 or 4 because I wanted to guarantee that I got through. I didn't want to give up my damage output before I knew that it would go through. So I think we're actually going to see a higher scoring game because the terraform action is easier to complete. I can guarantee that it's terraformed. And then the only way to stop the terraform is by my opponent doing an action, not killing me, not out OCing me. They have to actually do an action, which means I think I'm going to get that victory point more often than I would in a previous game.
All right. So, new tactic. We're not driving out there turn 1 to terraform all the objectives anymore.
But I still think that's a reasonable choice because, again, you're telling your opponent, yes, I know you're going second. I know I'm exposed. But now instead of just killing me to stop me from getting victory points, I'm getting a victory point even if you kill me. The only way to stop my victory points is by coming out and doing actions yourself.
Oh, so okay, I see. So now it's worse for your opponent. Now they have to expose themselves.
Correct. Doing triple terraform on turn 1 now almost guarantees you at least a victory point, maybe more. And that actively reduces the amount of damage output your opponent is putting out on their turn 1. No, I think it's a way higher scoring game.
I mean, I think it makes sense why it would be higher scoring. I mean, you kind of, obviously my reference is always orcs, but basically if like you have Grots scouting up and they do all the terraforming because you go first or you go second and you immediately like have a bunch of chargers across the midfield and a little bunch of dinky guys right behind, like Storm Boys or Grots. They're going to do the actions and your opponent's going to be like, well, I have to kill all these mega knobs or giant boys blobs before I even consider using something to do an action to undo your terraform. You're going to have to dedicate time to fighting over the midfield before you have action monkeys fixing the terraform thing.
Yep.
I do think that it depends, right? If you have two factions full of action monkeys, you can totally flip it every turn and it would be crazy. But if you're going like the elitist units, they're not going to stop to terraform until they've killed everything or most things that are threatening them.
Yep.
Because custodes aren't going to take a bunch of time to terraform.
Yep.
You've already terraformed it. Whatever. I'm going to wipe out your mega knobs first. Then the turn after that, I'll go back and terraform it.
Also, as a reminder, because I've kind of hinted at it here, but I haven't actually said it, we've effectively lost the mission rules, right? So now there's no longer battle line get to do like shoot an action or get to fall back in action. So in general, actions are a little more costly, or at least in when you pulled those cards, they would be more costly now because that doesn't exist.
Yep.
I think this is a well-rounded, welcomed improvement to the game.
Yeah. All right, moving on. So now we've got hidden supplies. So hidden supplies is the name of the old mission rule where you added an extra objective. And this is still technically true, but now it's the whole primary mission. So simple answer, you add an extra objective marker just like you used to. But now for scoring on this mission, you get 5 per turn in your command phase, obviously. For holding a single objective marker that's not within your deployment zone, you get an additional 5 if you're holding 2 not in your deployment zone. And then you get an additional 5, so up to 15, if you hold more than your opponent. So it's kind of hold more, take more with an extra step of hold at least 2.
Yep.
But this makes a lot of sense to go with the extra no man's land objective markers. Yes, it means your home objective is kind of only relevant to like defend stronghold, but reasonable stuff. Next one we've got is supply drop. Supply drop is again an old mission rule where you picked randomly 2 objective markers. They made a minor change of I think they have to be in no man's land now, where it was a little, I think it was like you actually got to choose and it wasn't random, but anyway, whatever. The main difference is that you can't pick the center one now. So now you know the center one's always going to be there. During round 4, the alpha objective marker is removed from the game, and the other 2 no man's land go up from earning 5 points per to 8 points per. And then on the 5th battle round, the omega is removed, and the last center objective by itself is worth 15 points. Fine.
I like this
not
better.
Crazy.
It makes it to where you don't get screwed with the middle missing.
Correct.
Even though like you're playing well and you have board control, it was coming up sometimes. Now it's like, okay, at a certain point it shifts left or it shifts right, and then it goes to center. So like you kind of, your opponent can get a bonus by like holding the one side that's still there, and then you can like swing back, and then it goes to the center, and it's just, it kind of sets up an epic center field fight.
Correct. And I think that's solid because I remember playing this mission in the past where we fought over the center and the center went away first. So I shifted to one side. And then because I shifted to that side, that one went away the next turn. And then I couldn't get myself back across the field to the other one. Or, had I played that smarter, maybe I go to the one that I knew would stick around, but then I'm just giving my opponent the other one for free, no contest. Still feels bad. Overall, I think this is better. And then the last one that changed is the ritual. And we'll get to this in a second, but basically ritual is no longer on the approved, I don't want to say approved, the tournament mission pool packet. So this is slightly less relevant, but for those who are just pulling from the deck, the ritual did change. It's arguably identical to what it was before, except for you no longer remove objective markers from no man's land. So you start with all 3 in the no man's land, and then you can do actions to make more.
Okay.
I think this is a little overdone, if I'm being honest. I would have rather seen like the opposite of you remove the center and keep the outside 2, so it like doubles the number of, you know, ranges that you could put, but all 3 seems like it's going to be really crowded.
Mm-hmm. I feel like it's going to be a lot more difficult to actually create objectives now.
Well, so it's still outside 12 of, or exactly 12 away from 1 objective marker and outside 6 of any other. The argument is you'll still have plenty of space to make the objectives, but also why would I spend my time on actions when I already have access to like 3 objective markers? I feel like ritual is going to be mostly forgotten about, except for like, well, this unit doesn't have anything to shoot at anyway. I guess I'll make a 4th objective marker to get myself a little bit of advantage. I feel like this is mostly a forgotten about mission rule at this point. But those are the 4 main mission changes. There are a bunch of others. Obviously, I said there's 10, but they're basically the same as before. There may be some minor wording changes, but I didn't notice on my first go around, which means they're probably not super impactful. Yeah. We'll do a mid-break thing real quick. When we get back, we'll go over the fixed and tactical, which had some real changes, and then we'll also hit up the mission packet for tournaments.
All right. Well, then let's go to our mid-break. Well, here we are, the middle of the episode, and the first thing we have to do is thank our patrons. You ready? The list got bigger.
Oh
boy. So we have to first thank our guardsman patron, Matt. He did it. I'm proud of him.
Fully inducted.
Not even a white shield guardsman?
No, he's a full-fledged guardsman.
Oh man, he's on his way.
He's on his way. Then we have to thank our white shield guardsmen, Mitch and Nicodemus. So thank you to our patrons, because you make this show that much easier to do. We appreciate you.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Thank you for supporting us.
According to like the chain of command, Matt has to tell the white shields that we're grateful
Stop
for
eating
them.
crayons.
Yeah.
And that, yeah. Hey, we're running out of rations. How am I supposed to draw?
So because Matt's in charge, can we start calling him Sergeant Matt?
Yes, we're going to call him Sergeant Matt.
Yep, he's in charge.
Sergeant Matt, take care of your troops. Oh, God.
I can already hear him. I can't take care of the troops. They're all 12.
So what's our news for today?
Oh, God.
News, we've got a bunch of stuff coming. Obviously, we're in the middle of talking about data slates and points updates and stuff like that. We're not going over all that stuff today because there's a ton of factions and a ton of changes. Make sure you check out all those points updates as they are relevant to you. We're also going to see, with this new mission packet, a giant shakeup as far as tournaments and GTs and how different factions are comparing to each other. We should also see some Chaos Knight stuff coming soon. They started spoiling some of that. But I think that's our news for now from the old G-dubs.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Do we want to thank our sponsors?
Yeah, go ahead and thank our sponsors.
Yeah, how many of them are there? I don't remember.
We got one right now.
Yeah,
we're working on another one.
Well, we're working on another one though.
It's us. I mean, I already have some kids. I don't want to work on another one. Anyway,
Wrong sponsor.
Sponsor us.
So,
God.
Gopher Games is our store, and obviously we do the podcast, and we're also putting together a bunch of merch. You can support us on our web store and find our merch there. We're going to start doing Gopher's Workshop t-shirts on limited runs. So like look for the goofy stuff. You'll see them. Get them while you can. They're going to be kind of themed to the stuff we're talking about. But yeah, just hit us up.
And then right now we've also got Gopher branded dice trays and dice and a bunch of other fun stuff. Help you get some more gaming in.
All right. Well, then I guess that brings us to the last part of our episode. All right, here we are. We're at the last part of the episode. Now we got to talk about all of the other good, Chris. We got to talk about all the other good that comes with this.
The other half of the deck.
Yes.
Yeah.
So before we actually get into relevant stuff, I would be remiss not to mention, because this was a whole thing during the previous deck releases. If you haven't figured it out or your friends haven't told you, these GW mission cards are what is called tarot size cards. If you go to like board game sleeves and look up tarot sleeves, you can totally sleeve your cards. I don't know that this necessarily matters, but also for those who like that for the shuffle or to protect them or whatever, people dropping drinks and things like that. Tarot cards, that's what you want.
And in case you have spelling issues listening to that, if you think of Kakarot or carrot, some people call them tarot cards, and there's a T at the end. I know, but you say tarot cards, and people are listening. They'll be like TARROW. No, that's not it. It's TAROT.
He says this because I was one of those people for a very long time.
I'm here to help you. I know things, so you don't have to.
Nah. Speaking of knowing things, Chris.
So we've got adjustments to fixed missions. And I think this is where we want to start, because this is probably where we've got the most kind of impact. Previously, I basically told everyone in the shop, you should probably play tactical, right? It's not that you couldn't play fixed. It's that it was very situational. You just kind of always wanted to do tactical. It was a better way to learn. Generally, it was the better answer. Now, fixed is far more relevant. So, going over each of the fixed cards, cleanse is effectively the same, except for there's a minor points change between fixed and tactical. Assassination now has a fixed, just like before, or I should say a set number. We're using the word fixed too much. A set number, just like before, for tactical. But if you're doing fixed, it now has a change. The change is, it depends on how many wounds a character has. You get X number of points if it has 4 wounds or more, which is admittedly most characters. But if you happen to have a character with less than 4 wounds, Makari, now it doesn't count for the same points. So, is generally better, but it's fairly minor. It only is relevant when you're playing fixed. So, that's good. Bring it down, effectively the same if you're playing fixed. However, for tactical, you got a buff on this card. Now it's just flat 4 points for killing a monster vehicle. Even, or in tactical, doesn't matter how many wounds it had. It kind of felt bad before when you were doing a lot of, I felt like I had to kill 3 different vehicles because they were all under the threshold to get the bonus points. Now it's just flat 4, feel good, move on. Call the Horde probably had the biggest change. It now is going off model count, not wounds, and it's 13 plus infantry models. I'm not actually sure why we called out infantry here, mostly because if it's 13 plus models and they're like beasts, let's say, it still sounds like a horde to me. But ignoring that little part, I am super happy about this change because it feels way more on theme, right? Having a 10 brick of Marines, not counting for Call the Horde, but then having a 10 brick of Marines in thicker armor, now all of a sudden being a Horde.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
So I think this is more on theme. Competitively, there's an argument to it's a little harder to force your opponent to keep it. So maybe this is less good competitively. But again, it's more on theme. I'm not going to complain about it. I actually think this is better. Moving on, engage in all fronts now has a more breakdowns. So you get a point for holding 2 table quarters. So if you can't get, especially for fixed, if you can't get all 3 or 4 early on, this is a way to still get something to help you along. Then we have no prisoners. No prisoners fixed no longer counts characters. Tactical still does. This is important. So as far as tactical is concerned, basically no change. No prisoners. The fact that it doesn't count characters is good. I'm hesitant to say that. The short answer is, or the exact wording, each time an enemy bodyguard unit or non-character unit is destroyed. I understand what they're trying to do. Here's my concern with this. What if I'm playing a Catan? What if I'm playing a big monster, Avatar of Cain? Well, it turns out those are characters. So now I put in all this work to kill it, and it counts for nothing because I'm playing fixed. That feels bad.
I guess if you take assassinate and no prisoners, it patches it up sort of. But
yes. And again, there are workarounds to this, reasonable, but also they're trying to fix a problem or confusion, I guess. And in doing so, they kind of created a different one, in my opinion. It's not that it's bad. It's just not ideal. Which, to be fair, I don't know what the ideal situation is. You got me.
I think they could have worded it differently and not made it a character keyworded thing or like non-character keyworded thing.
Yeah.
And just said, hey, if the bodyguard unit dies and it hadn't attached anything, and those die too, they don't count for no prisoners. And then you could still get something from like the lone op character you walked up and killed.
You're right.
He was never attached to anything. Like,
yep. And maybe that's the good answer, right? Is maybe eventually we had an FAQ to, well, they'll say, instead of bodyguard units, saying attached characters don't count. So the bodyguard unit still does, but also regular characters that are, again, if Gilliman's running around and I'm able to kill him, I should get no prisoners for that. I put in a lot of work and I definitely killed a relevant unit.
And maybe you have to say, like, if the character started attached to a unit, then it doesn't count. So that way, in future turns, a character running around on his own, you could still get it. But
yeah, I get you.
So from what I'm hearing so far, fixed is not really a way to go. And I don't actually know that that's true. Let me finish with the fixed. Yep, go for it.
So in addition, I'm going to blow through the last 3 because they're effectively the same. We still have Storm Hostile as fixed. We still have Behind Enemy Lines, and we still have Established Locus. Now, I forget which one I looked the other day. One of these got added, and there was one that got dropped. What I think is surprisingly relevant here is that we gained a lot of flexibility in our fixed. Like taking engage in all fronts no longer feels bad because turn 1, even if I get pinned in my deployment zone, I'm still getting a point, right? Because I control 2 table quarters. I like the fact that Assassinate now has this like point break of how many wounds does it have. Okay, that's not like technically that's a nerf, but also it's so rare that like I don't feel bad about it. How many characters are actually running 3 wounds or less? Some, totally fair, but not a ton. I think overall, fixed is more takeable now. Do I think Call the Horde is like takeable? Still no, right? You get to see what your opponent's playing before you pull it, but also I would never take Call the Horde as a fixed. It doesn't make any sense.
No.
But again, I think things are more takeable now.
It's very rare, but I mean, if Europe has MSU meta and we have an elitist meta or like big monster thing, the horde meta is just very lost. Like there are times if you run up to someone and they're running like 5 squads of 20 boys with characters attached, you should probably take Call the Horde. The thing is you might meet that person once in 20 games. Like it's very uncommon.
Correct. And 20 games is, if we're being honest, even in like America where we're more willing to play, non-MSU, big and brick, scary stuff, it's not super, like 20 seems kind of nice. I don't know that it's 20. I think it's less than 20. Again, you may have like a local meta where I play with the same guys almost every week, and one of the guys loves Green Tide, or one of the guys is, trying to do Horde Space Marines, or like, could it happen? Yes, absolutely. But also it's, at least in America, it's very unlikely to happen consistently at a GT.
I also question the cutoff of 13. I'm not mad at it. It's just that there are a lot of factions that could have taken 20 units in a squad before, or 20 models, I should say, in a unit. Yep. And a lot of things had their squad size reduced. Like a lot of horde factions across the board lost the ability to go that high in their squad size. Because like Ludas used to be able to go up to 15. They would have triggered this. Now they can only go up to 10. So there's no way, like the unit lost the ability to allow someone to score this on them.
Right. And specifically the reason they chose 13 is because they're thinking about Marines is like the most likely answer in every scenario, right? So if you're looking at Marines, I can take a 10-man brick, I can put a captain, I can put a lieutenant, or I can put like a chapter master and an apothecary, right? So it's 10 plus 2 characters. It's really funny because even Marines can get around this, right? I 10 brick of Marines and then also Barney's Calgar, because he comes with 2 bodyguards. We're already at 13. But whatever, as much as there is an exception to this, the idea is Marines, unless you actually have one of, access to like the 20 brick, which there are not many of, you're not a horde. So that's what they're trying to prevent. Now, you're playing orcs, you're playing Tyranids, you're playing like Gene Stealer cults. You can absolutely trigger this all day, every day, but it's just way less likely. All right, moving on to the tactical. For tactical, most things, other than the ones we've already gone over, are the same. There are 3 main cards that I want to cover that are different enough they, need to be addressed. The first one is we got a Mark for Death. We had it before, but there's a significant change to this. Your opponent still picks 3 targets. They are now referred to as alpha targets. It effectively works the exact same as before. The change is, in addition to those 3, you are allowed to pick, you as the person who pulled Mark for Death is allowed to pick one of their units. This is referred to as the gamma target. So even if they pick, again, the guy in the back with lone op and this other unit you can't see, and then also like, it turns out you don't have a valid target, this is still scoreable. Your opponent can't just turn it off because you get to pick one and you're like, nope, this one that I was going to kill anyway. Yes, I'm going to get less points. It's not worth a ton of victory points, but I can still score this. You can't stop me.
Yeah.
Way better. I
have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Can the alpha and the gamma be the same unit?
Yes, but the way it's worded is if you kill an alpha, you get the full points. If you kill a gamma, you get less points.
But you won't get both.
But it says like instead. So by the time you kill a thing that is both alpha and gamma, you're going to get the alpha points, which is more. And then you're still only getting that, right? Because it says instead. So gamma doesn't stack. It doesn't talk about it being cumulative. yes, that is technically true, but it's not actually relevant. Okay. Next one is Tempting Target. Some of you may remember this name from a previous mission deck, but I want to go over it because it is a little different. So your opponent picks one objective marker in no man's land. If you control that objective marker at the end of the turn, you score some points. That's the gist. It's fine. It's not hard. Sounds great. Okay. The last new card is called Display of Might. This one is probably the one that I've heard the most complaints about, and I totally agree. This is my least favorite card in the deck. If you have more units than your opponent in no man's land, you score points. My issue with this is if we put our little blinders on because we're GW and we just look at the European meta, this makes a lot of sense. Okay? No problems. The minute we take off our little blinders and look at the American meta, this is awful. You're playing knights. I hope you're playing like only war dogs, because otherwise you ain't doing this. You have zero chance, because it doesn't care about OC. It just cares about number of units. If you're playing custodes, you can't afford enough units unless you pull this on like turn 4 and you're like the only thing left alive. There's
Even
no
then,
way
you might not be fast enough.
Yeah, there's no way like Custodes is going to score this over Tyranids. It ain't happening. So I pretty much hate this card, but it's in the deck. And there's no way to rotate it other than spending your little CP on new orders. So just keep that in mind. All right, so those are kind of all the updates to the cards. Again, I think Fixed is far more takeable now. It's very subtle differences, but I think it's differences that matter. It is more takeable. I am going to continue to do Tactical almost all the time because as the factions I play, I find it very relevant to be able to discard them for the CP. Obviously, when you're playing Fixed, you can't do that. If you're playing a faction that generates CP, Ultramarines, though they had some nerfs to that, Grots, because you're playing orcs, like there are ways, like Guardsmen or the Astra Militarum, they should probably be playing Fixed most of the time, right? Because they've got the character, especially after the buff he just got, that auto generates the CP. Fair. And I'm really glad it's more playable for them. As a, Space Wolf or Necron player, I'm probably playing Tactical all the time because I want to be able to discard when I pull Mark for Death. I don't care about 2 victory points. I'd rather mark for CP.
Yeah, that makes sense.
As we also got today the new mission pack for tournaments. So the mission pool is noteworthy. Most of them are the same, I would argue, because again, most of the primary missions are the same. The things we need to note here is specifically several of the missions got removed from the pool. Ritual is no longer on there in any way. Unexploded Ordnance is not on there. Excuse me. And also the one that's actually sad to me is Burden of Trust. I thought that was a reasonable and fun mission. It's no longer on there. I want to complain about this and say that they've made the mission pack a little more vanilla, a little less exciting. However, I will totally admit that the purpose of the mission packet isn't to be crazy and exciting, and it's meant to be balanced, right? Yep. And there's an argument to, if I wanted to play wild and exciting, I could totally play Burden of Trust at home. I could totally do asymmetric missions. If I'm going to a GT, I care more about it being fair and balanced for both players. All right, maybe this is fair.
So, I assume we're going to wrap up here, but I have a couple of questions for you, Chris. And one, you have to answer yes or no. In the spirit of balance, are the new Space Wolves balanced with this new meta?
We'll have a whole episode on that next week. Short answer is no, but we'll have a whole, we'll go in depth on that next week and explain a lot of that.
That's good enough for me. Also, I have to say, I really like the new Terraform in particular because you can flip it back and forth. And in my mind, because it's still called Terraform, it is still absolutely like Imperial Fists building the sandcastle and Iron Hands knocking it down and then building it again and then knocking it down. That will always be what that is in my brain. I stack the bricks, you knock them down. You stack your own bricks, I knock those down. That's it. That's the whole mission.
And then one last little note. For those that are looking at doing tournaments and are interested in a lot of the stuff we're talking about, I strongly suggest taking a look at the terrain layouts. Most of them are the same, but there are a few that got updated, and there's one that I would argue is almost wholly new. So take a look at those and kind of be prepared for that. Most of them are the same. Again, given the mission packet and how like layout 5 is really just for long deployment edge, there's not a lot of creativity to some of these. However, I do think we got some objectively new terrain layouts, which sounds fun and exciting to me.
It's a short edge meta now.
Yep. Which, okay, since we're talking about that, I think it is relevant to say real quick, as a tournament organizer, I think this is actually very reasonable. It's having almost all the missions be short edge means that the logistics of running a tournament are more beneficial now. And the more beneficial the logistics are for me as an organizer, the better I get to facilitate players, right? So putting them on short edges means I get to turn all the tables. We don't have to spin them back and forth or have to worry about, but this mission's long edge, so now I have to like, the players have to run around the table and all this and that. Having it be on short edge also allows me to stack up more mats per like table square footage. So I get more people in.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of reasons why this is totally reasonable.
It's all good.
Right. Well, do we got anything else?
Nope. I think we're good. We're going to have a Space Wolves review for you next week and a bunch of other stuff coming. So stay tuned.
Sky. Hobby time. No hobby time?
We're getting Color Forge. You like spray paints?
They are reasonably priced and objectively bigger cans than Citadel paints.
And also they have color matching. So
correct.
There's a lot of benefits to it, and we're going to be supporting it at our store for forever. So if there's anything you want, just ask us. Email us, whatever. That's our biggest hobby thing.
That's the biggest hobby time we got.
I mean, real hobby talk. If you get a bunch of good colors in spray cans that you can trust, for lack of a better term, you can actually start doing like the zenithal priming just with rattle cans, which I do on a regular basis. You get a little practice. It's not that hard. But then you can do the different colors for zenithal priming, not just black and white or black and gray or whatever. You can do like purple to pink if you're doing like a bunch of Emperor's Children and stuff, and you want like, you're cheating out all the gradients. It makes your life way easier.
And by way easier, from my hobby perspective, holy cow, faster. That's what that means.
I need 3 colors, and priming was already 2 colors. I'm there.
Yep.
All right. Well, then at that point, it's the end of the episode. Thank you all for listening. Tune in next week. Hey, everybody. It's Aaron. I want to thank you again for tuning in for this episode of Gopher's Workshop with us, hanging out and listening. Remember, leave a 5-star review. Let us know what you think. And if you feel like supporting us, you can always go to Patreon in the show notes below. Thanks. Till next time.